Let me guess. You were told life would start once you completed college, and you believed it. So now you're just waiting. That was also me until the pandemic hit. One gap year turned into 3 gap years. And when I finally returned to school, I found myself trying to catch up, trying to get to the point where my life would finally start. I watched my friends and classmates who I began school with graduate and move on. And I was now seemingly left behind and behind on life, returned to simply waiting. This brings me to today, 24 years old, no bachelor's degree, junior in college, 2 years until I graduate. And honestly, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But let me tell you what I realized now that I'm older, wiser, and still in school. If you're waiting for your life to start, you're going to be waiting forever. Now, it's not your fault that you're thinking in this way. It wasn't my fault. But it is up to you to change it, if that's what you desire, of course, for your life to really start. If you're still waiting for your life to start, then there's most likely 3 questions in between you and that realization that will help you kickstart your life. 3 questions I had to ask myself as well. With the first question being, who told you you're behind on life? We grow up on a predestined timeline, a timeline that consists of preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then college. Education is primary and of the utmost importance. Not that I disagree with this, but this timeline is so deeply ingrained within the entirety of our existence that even just thinking about deviating from it just a little bit is really scary. The one solace that we have to relieve us of the burden of the timeline is the idea that when we finally make it to the end, when we finally get that 1 degree after college, at that point, our next decision will finally be ours, and that will be when our life truly starts. And if we don't follow this timeline, and to a T, might I add, we are then told that we're behind and that we need to catch up. And it feels like we're failing because we're not on track with the rest of our peers. So perhaps society and the school system is to blame for us feeling behind if we don't conform to this timeline. And social media, I get it, it doesn't make it any easier. The graduation posts, the ones of single degrees, double degrees, the 19 and graduated in 3 years, the 20 and graduated, the youngest student ever to go to law school. The headlines say it all. Not only are we constantly surrounded by these success stories of accomplishments in education, but they're telling us that simple success is really not enough unless it's paired with the accomplishment of youth, and that graduating with a bachelor's degree at 26 will not be the equivalent of graduating with a bachelor's degree at 21 years old. Or at least that was the reality I felt I was being told. It was this reality that was telling me I was behind, that I needed to catch up, that I should be at a different point in my life for my age, and that I was also still waiting for it to start. What this did to me is it put me in a constant state of rushing, one so serious it manifested in even the simplest of ways. Like, I could not bear the time of 15 minutes on Google Maps. If Google Maps told me 15 minutes, I had to do it in 10. I was rushing. If I'm waiting for a coffee, I'm anxiously waiting as I need the process to speed up. I'm walking fast everywhere. I simply was constantly in a rush because to me, my entire future was so far away and I was so far behind. I was supposed to be in my 20s, in my prime, living it up outside of school. But upon my realization that it was less myself telling me that I was in a rush and more the concepts of this timeline, I then had to ask myself the second question. Why are you rushing? Do you even know where you're going? Why was I rushing? Why was I rushing? Why was I rushing? Where in the world was I trying to go? And I look back at my young 18-year-old self, freshman in college, thinking, ooh, the world is my oyster, and following a timeline that really was not one of my own. I was to graduate, get my architecture degree, and then get a job and become an architect. And so by the age of 22, my life would have began to start. I was rushing toward this dream without even realizing that I was so lost. I didn't actually know where I wanted to go. I did not want to rush, but I felt compelled to by this timeline. And in hindsight, I realized that things always work out and everything happens for a reason. Because I would probably still be rushing today if it was not for the pandemic, if it was not for the 3 gap years I took. They weren't of my choosing particularly, but if I had to go back and do it again, I would pick 3 gap years every single time. Because what those gap years did for me is that being away from school gave me so much perspective. And for the first time, it actually gave me time. And I know that's contradictory again. Another thing that the timeline tricks us into believing is that we will have time later, which I may beg to differ, that you will actually have less time later, especially if you see yourself heading down the timeline of a regular 9 to 5. Not to get too deep into that, but there really is no time like the present. Taking those gap years were the best thing that could have happened. I got new hobbies, I realized new interests, I dived into my creativity and figured out what I really wanted to do with my life. I realized now that I was in a rush because I had no idea where I was going. I thought that if I rushed, I would get to that uncertain place faster, so I would know where I was going. Finally, knowing where it is I wanted to go allowed me to no longer have that anxiousness, and for me to calm down and to enjoy my journey and where I'm headed now, because where I'm going is only for me to get, and it's my own timeline. This just reiterates why it's so important to question what you're doing and if you're doing it for yourself or because someone told you that that's what you're supposed to be doing. Because you come to realize that you're not living your life for yourself. And comparison is really the thief of joy as well. All the intense anxiety and sadness and dissatisfaction that also came from me looking at my peers, seeing them in a different place and comparing them to mine based on what I was taught to be good or bad based on this timeline did not help me get anywhere any faster. This thinking also made me feel limited. I felt like I wasn't allowed to do certain things because it's strayed too far from the timeline and it would throw me off track from what I was taught to be the right solution to my life, off track from the timeline. Now, I am truly so removed from the timeline. There's no other place I would rather be at any other age than where I'm at right now. Every year, every memory, every moment has shaped me to where I am, and nothing could be better than the present moment. So when I returned back to school at the age of 22 to start my sophomore year of university, I came in with a vengeance. I knew exactly what clubs I wanted to join, what minor I wanted to declare. I came in with more scholarships than I had before, and I came in with a new perspective that gave me a focus because I was so excited. I was so excited to start my own timeline and so excited to start my own life. Which brings me to the last question. What if your life doesn't start after college? What if it starts right now? To be honest, I never thought that I would be spending my 20s, what I was told to be my prime, in school. But also, I couldn't be more excited and thankful to spend my prime in school. I am not waiting for my life to start. It already has. And part of that life, not all of it, has to do with school. The gap years I took were the best things to happen for my education. They gave me so much more appreciation because I had forgotten for just a moment how excited I was to go to school and to study, to accomplish my dream of being an architect, and just to be at university, to do all the college things and make friends and have late torturous nights in the studios. I also realized how much I love school. Now, this isn't everybody. I know some people don't like school at all, but me personally, I'll take school every day. And to be honest with you, when I do get my bachelor's degree later in my 20s, I'll probably go right back to school again. So, to answer the question, what if your life doesn't start after college? When does it start? What if it starts now? Well, for me, my life starts at 24. This is living these long lectures, these late nights, these moments with friends, the A's, the B's, the C's, the classes I straight up failed, the figuring it out, the making mistakes, the not knowing, the small wins, the new habits, the new hair, the dreaded readings, the cafeteria food, the endless matcha, all of it. All of it is worth living and truly has never made me feel more alive. To live, this was a conscious decision. I decided that I would live my life and I would not wait. Simple pleasure and leisure of life truly exists without a timeline. And now that I'm not waiting, it's so funny that I find that I have all the time in the world. Now that I'm not waiting, I feel so happy. And life truly starts when you begin to be happy. My life starts at 24. It starts at every day I wake up, whether I'm in school, whether I'm at a job, whether I'm unemployed, whether or not I'm following a timeline that makes sense to nobody but myself. My 18-year-old self would not be able to fathom my current timeline. If she could look at the Janae that I am today, she would be so excited for her future. And it's for her that I'm making this video, to let her know that the unexpected parts of life is what truly makes you feel alive. Your prime is not a date in the future. It does not come after a specific accomplishment. It does not come because someone else told you that you're in your prime or not. Your prime is simply that moment, that day, that hour, that minute, that second in any present where you are alive. The youngest you'll ever be in that moment and the oldest you've ever been. And the most alive you've ever been in your life. And today, that's 24. For you, I wish to truly live and to thrive and to follow your own timeline. So subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment for more. And I'll see you next time as we continue on our own timelines and we continue to live. Bye bye.